Hello friends, welcome to EDUeki Learning channel. Please do subscribe to get more updates on the DevOps concepts. This video is part of the full course AWS DevOps Practitioner training. Please do check the description below to get the link for the complete full course. Without further delay, let's get into the video. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the session today. And yes, so to have a quick recap, right, we were discussing about EBS volumes, which are the Elastic Block Store volumes, which is one of the storage solution in the AWS cloud, right, which is allowing us to create a volume on the AWS cloud and attach it to the EC2 instance and use that volume to store our data. There is a significant process is involved in using the EBS volumes to store the data. It includes, after attaching the volume from AWS, which is the infrastructure related activity. Then from the operating system perspective, we need to, format a volume. In a sense, we need to create it as a file system, then mount it into a directory, and then go into that mount point, then start putting your data over there, right? We have seen that only the mounted file systems can be seen in the df command to see the file system utilization structure. And right like if it is mounted state, then only the volume will be open where we can go and start putting the data. All these different scenarios we have discussed over there, right? Good to know. So I think from there, let's continue the things. And I have updated the course tracker accordingly, guys. And I have updated the course tracker even for the upcoming lectures as well. That is the tentative timelines that we have when we are going to cover which topic. That's the plan that I have in mind. There will be significant changes, but yeah, overall, this is the plan that I have. Okay, that helps to estimate our timelines and be plan accordingly, right, for the upcoming sessions too. Good. So now coming back to the AWS management console, right, this is where I have the EC2 instance currently running. So I will quickly logging into this instance and I will configure this as a web server. So what is the whole goal of our training, guys? Right, at the end of the day, right, after the completion of our training, where we are trying to be at. So the final goal is, right, we should be capable to deploy and run a web application and access the web application from our browsers as like it is a real time. Hope that is our goal, right? From the day one, I'm keep right going into that particular goal things only, right? So as part of that, we already did it in a way, right? I have deployed a Apache HTTP web server in our EC2. I have shown you how a web application will be accessible from the browser, right? So that is just a basic. On top of that, there are significant best practices that we need to implement, and that is where now we are going towards that best practices, how exactly we can make use of this, right, in a real time to have a real web applications. Okay, so every day I'll be keep on giving some more best practices, right? And as and when I'm adding the best practice, right, the previous things will become basic, and whatever the upcoming topic is coming, right, that is what we are going to use in a real time. That's how we need to understand, guys, right? So that means the basic that what we have covered previously, that we will not be using as it is in the real time, right? We are going to put some more add-ons and we'll be using in a efficient manner. Those add-ons are the improvements, that something that I'm going to discuss on day-to-day basis. Okay, so for now, let me go to this EC2 instance and quickly let me deploy the web server there. Okay, so I'll just quickly go to EC2 instance from my SSH client. Good. So let me install the web server there. I will do yum install httpd -y. Good. So I will clear the screen. I will go to where www html location. I will quickly create a index.html file, which is the default file that the Apache web server is expecting to be available, right? And let me put some sample website there. Okay. So this is my website, right? Now let me do systemctl start HTTPD. Let me confirm that it is listening on port number 80 by default by running netstat-tupln commands. Now I can see that the web server is listening on port number 80. Now I'll go to AWS and let me start accessing the web application. So somehow this is working, right? Looks good. So let me show you the different ways how you can access the web application, guys. And here, right, uh, you can give HTTP is the protocol :/ the IP address. You all know, right? The IP can be replaced with the website name or the DNS name as well, correct? We already familiar that how we can add this IP as a record in the DNS entries wherever the domain name servers are registered for you, correct? So I don't need to add this IP into the DNS every time when I'm doing these exercises. So going forward, I will just use the IP to access the website. Hope that is good enough, right? It is just matter of whether you use name or IP. It just the name will be converted into the IP in the backend. That concept we are already familiar, right? So that means all the concepts will be the same. Wherever the IP is there, you can even replace with your name as well. That still be valid, right? So here you can do a :80 if you want to supply the port number while you are accessing. Okay, and if you don't give :80, still be fine because 80 is the default port number. Your web clients like a browsers will already know that it has to send to port number 80. So usually if you hit enter, I'm getting my website, right? So let me try to understand this request now. Right? So this is what is the request input URL, right? Can I call this as a request URL, guys? From the terminology wise, right? Can I call this as a request URL? What is URL? So whatever the website name that you have entered in your browser, right? That is the URL, right? So this is the request URL. Okay. So can I say that the response? What is the response that I have received here, guys? Whenever I have access to this website, whichever the website that you see here, right, that is called as a response, correct? So in this case, this is my website. That is what is the website that I have seen, right? That is actually the the response. So precisely, I'm going to call this as a HTTP request URL. Is that the right terminology? Right? I'm calling this URL. I'm calling this website name, whatever I'm calling here, right? This is called as a HTTP request URL, and then I'm calling it as a HTTP response. So whenever the user is hitting the HTTP request URL on the browser, I'm getting the HTTP response. That response is rendered it into a website format, and I'm seeing it in a browser as output. So far so good, right? So whenever you are hitting this particular IP address on a port number 80, right, the web server know that, right, it has to go to where www/html location, because where www.html is the default document root folder where the website related code and the content is available, correct? In this location, it will look for the file called index.html, correct? This is the default nature, right? So the same request URL Can I do like this, right? The same request URL after the IP address, I'm just putting it as slash index.html. Do you think this URL still be working as it is? Let me copy this URL. Let me try to access this website one more time. This time, after the IP address, I'm just putting that, hey, I wanted to access index.html file. Let me hit enter. You see that I'm still getting the same website. There is no difference. What is that you are trying to get out of this, right? So after the IP address, right, you can still pass your file name, which file that you wanted to access. If you don't give any file name, then since index.html is the default file name that it has to look for, it is going to get that file. But for some reason, right, if your website code is available in a different file, or you wanted to access a different file, it is still be possible to supply that file name in the request URL itself. For example, can I do this? IP address slash, let's say, contact.html. Now I'm getting something called not found error. What could be the reason for this, guys? So what does it mean? Let me take this URL again. Let me come back here, right? So currently my HTTP request URL is like this. So how do I understand this URL? So can I say that it is trying to look into the Apache web server software, right? Which is listening on port number 80. It is actually looking for a contact.html file in the var www.html location, correct? You don't need to give this var www.html location in the request URL. You just only say the file which you wanted to, because the var www.html is the default document root folder. So your web server software know that it has to go to that location only to search for the file that it is trying to look for. Make sense? So in this case, right, I'm getting not found error. Why? This particular file that you have requested for is not available in this particular location, correct? So even if I go here, if I look into var www.html, I don't have that file and it is saying that not found. Let me try. So let's say contact.html file, we can contact on +91, right? I'm just putting some context over there. Now the file is exist. If I go back and try to access this file, now you see that I'm able to get that particular file also. That is how you need to understand how to pass the specific file that you wanted to, or you are interested on, guys. So far so good, right? Sometimes, right, sometimes let's say signup.html as an example. So sometimes you may get this type of errors, right? How do you understand what could be the problem, right? So it could, as of now, it is very easy to understand that, hey, not found in the sense the file that we are looking for is not available. That could be the reason why it is not. But this is the not only the error, right? When you are trying to access a website, there will be hundreds of different errors may trigger. So if your website is not working for any reason, how do we understand that what could be the problem, correct? So in order to diagnose the problem, or in order to understand what went wrong in this website, why it is not working, there are several steps are there. The step number one is we need to look at the log file, log log. So what is a log file? Log file is a file which is containing the transaction related information of your web server. In the sense, usually any request that is hitting on your HTTP web server application, it is going to track that request information into a file. That file is available in, let's say, /etc/http, right? You see that in the etc httpd location, there is a folder called logs. You go to the logs folder. In the logs folder, we can see a file called access log and error log. The access log is containing the transaction related information which are successful. Error log is containing the transaction related information. When I say transaction, what does it mean, guys? The transaction in the sense the HTTP request information, right, is available. So if it is error, that error will be in a error underscore log file. That's how the HTTP web server is going to track the HTTP request information in this particular file. Any file that is holding of the business transaction related information or application behavior related information, that file we are going to call it as a log file. These log files will help us to understand what went wrong and how to troubleshoot the issue if that is not working for any reason. So if you look into this logs folder, right, this folder is having some kind of a linking to one other directory. You see the directory name here. So the /var/log/httpd, that is the directory where it is having the linking. In the sense, even if I go to var log httpd and look for the files, you see my present working directory at this time, right? So currently I am in /var/log/httpd. In this location also, I'm seeing the same files. What does it mean? So usually whatever the logs files that are there in the etc httpd logs folder, the same files are having linking to a different location as well. You can access these files from etc httpd logs folder, or you can access it from var log httpd. Both are same. Why is like this? Because any application, let's say it could be a SSH, it could be Apache web server, it could be any other. Down the line, we are going to use many other applications like this for different use cases, right? So all of the application logs will be available in a single location. That's easy for us to understand where to go and how to look for the issues. Got me? So let's say if anything going wrong in my EC2 server, could be SSH, could be like server, could be web server, or it could be any other. So immediately I can go to the location called var log, because this is the default directory where all the log files will be located. In the var log, we can see many logs. We can see the you can see the HTTP logs. We can see few other logs as well. Right? This is the default location. At this time, we are not worrying about any of the other logs. We are worrying about the HTTPD logs. So we can just go to that location and look for the files and look for the log file to see the content. So currently I'm looking at the access underscore log file. Usually this file will have the success messages, right? So helping guys to understand now. So the end user, so the terminologies are little important, right? The end user is currently hitting this particular HTTP request URL and I'm getting the HTTP response as not found. Now my question for you guys, right? This particular request is, how do you understand this request is success or failure, right? So this particular request is considered as a success from the application perspective, from the Apache web server perspective. Why? The web server has received the request. What web server has to do? the web server has to go to the location, correct? So the web server will go to where www HTML location, correct? In this location, it will look for the file. If the file is there, give the response. If the file is not there, hey, file is not there. You're trying to understand me. That means from the web server perspective, it has done his job. It is not a failure from the web server perspective. Of course, it is failure from our perspective, from client perspective, from user perspective. But from the web server perspective, it is not a failure request because it is successfully received the request. It is successfully able to verify. It's not there. Yes, it is not there. Whatever the outcome that it has got, it is able to give the response back to the user again, right? Got me? So this is not a failure request, at least from the at least from the web server perspective. When the web server will consider that the request will be failed, right? Let's say the right. Let's say the user has sent a request to the web server. Hey, I need this file. For some reason, your web server is not able to validate. The web server is not able to fetch the content from this file. Maybe some permission issue, some other issues. You got me? What I'm trying to? Let's say you are not giving the permission to go to this directory. You restricted. Your web server does not have a permission to go to that location to see whether the file is there or not. In that situation, the web server will consider that is a failure request because it is not able to validate the request and it is not serving the response back to the user. Are we good with this? Right? So that's how always we need to think from the web server perspective, whether it is a success response or a failure response. Now, if I go to var log httpd location one more time, now tell me guys, right, this particular request information, should I be getting it in error log or the access log? Where do I get this log file now? Because every request that is initiated from the client will be recorded, right? So in this case, it will be in a access log only because from the web server perspective, this is not a failure. It is still responded, right? So let me see the access log. If you look into the access log, right, this is how the information is generated in the log file. And here, let me pick up one particular statement. This statement is telling that, hey, the request is received from this particular IP address. Whatever I'm trying to explain you the format of the log file and the way how we need to understand the log file. Okay. So it says that whatever the IP that you see in the starting, that is the client IP. In my case, this is the my laptop IP address. You got me? Because I have accessed this website from my laptop, right? So my laptop IP is considered as a source IP address. The source IP is captured here. Good. And this is the timestamp when the request is initiated from this particular source IP. And you can see that the user is trying to get a file. The file that it is trying to get is /signup.html. This is the file that the user is trying to get it. So whatever you see the get here, this get is called as a HTTP request method, right? So sorry, the get is called as a HTTP request method. This request method will tell us that the client is trying to do what on my web server. The client is trying to get something. The client is trying to upload something. The client is trying to delete something. You got me what I'm trying to? Because whenever the client is trying to access my web server, the client can do multiple operations, correct? In this case, I'm just trying to access my website, but you just look at the real time, guys. Maybe if you go to the real-time web applications, maybe I think I can't just open. Maybe I'll go to, that's okay. I don't need to go to any other sample website since we're already familiar. But most of the websites that you see, like the facebook.com, youtube.com, or any other, right? The user can also post, upload, add some data to a server. It could be uploading a file, uploading a video, or adding the text, adding the comment. Got me? So all that are the operations that are not requesting something from the web server, right? The user itself is sending some data back to the server, correct? So we need to understand the user is doing what kind of the request to the web server. If the user is trying to get something from the server, that is called as a get request, and we will be understanding that here as GET, right? If the user is trying to upload a file to the server, the way how you upload a video in your YouTube portal, right? So if that is the case, that is called as a post request. If the user is trying to delete something from your account, you usually go to your website. I mean to say, take your Facebook, you log into the Facebook, right? You can delete your comments, whatever the comments that you have added, right? Something like this. So then those are called as a delete request. That means there are different HTTP request methods that are available, right? Right? You see this, the delete method, put method, connect method, patch method, get method, and there are many, guys. And I can see there are many here. Post method, right? So what kind of the operation that the user is doing, that is identified using the request method, and we don't need to worry about understanding the request methods of all whatever you see in this. No, we don't need to worry. As of now, understand that there are different request methods are there. It will tell what kind of the operation that the client is doing on the server. At a high level, get is the method to get something from the server. Post is the method where the client is trying to upload something to the server, right? Connect is the method which is like connecting to the server. It's like it will be used in different use cases, right? Something else. Like delete is for deleting something. Patch is like updating something, right? Now coming back to here, yes. So in this case, I can see get, that means the user is trying to get a file, and you can see the file name here. Now tell me, guys, how do you understand this slash signup.html? What does it mean by slash signup.html? Is it slash signup.html? Is this the absolute path that it is trying to refer? Not really, right? So whenever the web server is telling that, hey, it is trying to look for this file, wherever you see the preceding slash, the slash is referring to the root directory. What is the root directory in this case? I'm explaining this context from the web server perspective. From the web server perspective, where www.html is the root, right? That is where it is telling that the where www.html as a slash. So that slash is referring to the home directory or root directory. It is not a OS level root directory. It is a web server root directory, which is where www.html, guys. That's how we need to understand. Why it is important? Whenever you see this type of errors, you should not think that this is on the OS level root directory. No, this is on the web server level root directory. Good. After that, you see there is a number here. Basically, this is called as a protocol that it is operating on. After that, you can see some number, right? 404. This number, this particular column is describing about the HTTP response code. Whatever the response that the web server is sending back to the client, This response is also marked with one unique number, which is called as a response code, and that we can see here. This number has a significant meaning, right? Usually, if you see the response code as 200, that means the response is successful, in the sense whatever you have been requested for in the get request, that is successfully fulfilled, and it is able to send you the required output, then that is the 200 response code. 404 is the response code which tells that whatever is being requested or whatever you are trying to get from the server, that is not found on the server, hence it is a 404. So this response code will help us to understand what could be the problem. So there are many number of response codes. Sorry. So there are many response codes that we need to look at. HTTP response codes. Right. So if you look at this, right, any response code which is between these two series, those are the successful responses. It could be 200, 201, 202, or any other. Anything between these four series, that is the client side error response error. That means client has has done some mistake. Okay. In our case, right, here you see that the file is not found. Where the problem, guys? Do you think this is the problem of a server? No, right? So there is no file and you are trying to request for the file which is not exist. Obviously you won't get it. So the client is doing some mistakes here, or something is went wrong at a client side, right? So that's what it is. Sorry, where it is. Yeah, right. So if at all the response code is starting with a 5, that is the server response. That means somehow your web server is not able to handle the request, not able to give the response back to you. So that's how we need to understand what went wrong, and you can see the detailed uh, explanation for each and every response code in the documentation below. At this time, you don't need to remember all these response codes, guys. Just understand that the any HTTP request will have the response code, and we can find that in the log file. And 200 is the successful, and 4 series is the client, and the 5 series is the server side issues. That is good enough. After that, whatever you see, you don't need to worry too much about it. This is just talking about the request is come from which system, from like which browser, all these things which will not be much useful at this time. So if you look into the error underscore log file, right, there are some lines over there which is not in a good state to understand at this time. But usually if your Apache has any internal issues, you will be notified in the error underscore log. As of now, whatever you see, these are the common things that it is notified. So we don't need to worry these things at this time, right? So most of the times, if your Apache not able to access a file, though the file is exist due to permission issue, due to some other issues, maybe your Apache does not have enough memory to serve the request. So that kind of the major issues, right, you will be getting notified in the error underscore log file, right? So for now, this is good enough. Let me come back. Sometimes in order to do the troubleshooting, right, wherever you are trying to uh, access this request URL, do a right click on your browser, right? And there is an option called inspect. Just click on this inspect. It will open the browser development console, right? So here in this panel, you can just go to the console. In the console also, you will be able to see this number. You see this 404. That is the response code that it has received from the server. The same thing I got it from the log. Yeah, this is also the other way to identify what went wrong exactly on the server side. So here you can see the network section as well, right? And you'll be getting some more information here as well. Let me try to access. You see, so the client is trying to get a signup.html file. The response code is 400. If you put a mouse over there, you'll get more information. The request URL is this one, and this is the get call. The response is 404, and you can see some other information, right? So, and we can see something called response here. This is exactly the response that we have received in a HTML formatted way. So far, so good. Good. Now coming back to EC2, right? So at this time, let me go back to var www html df-h. I think this is not what we are trying to write. As a best practice, I said that the var www html, which is containing the business specific data, this data, I don't want to keep it in our EBS or in our root EBS volume, correct? What's our plan, guys? I wanted to keep this client specific data into a separate EBS volume, right? I don't want to keep it in the root volume. Tell me, guys, at this time, the the index.html is stored in which volume? How many volumes that I have? LSBLK. You see that currently I have only one volume, which is XVDA, which has one partition. That is where the root file system is mounted, right? So obviously now the index.html files that have kept in the var www.html are actually stored in the root file system. Are we good with this statement? But but if I talk about the best practices, right? No, I think I should not be right keeping it in the root file system. Let me create my own EBS volume to store it in our specific volume now. So I'll just look at the EC2 server, and the server is currently in the 1D availability zone. I will just go to volume section, create a volume, and let me take some 4 GB volume in 1D availability zone and create a volume. Let me select the volume, attach the volume to the EC2 instance, select the instance from the drop down, let it be the default volume names and attach the volume. Most of the times the things will be repetitive, but each time when I'm repeating the concept, definitely I'll be recapping something and I'll be adding some other extra concepts as well, guys. That's how things will be easier. So now if I come back lsblk, now I have got a new disk. Help me, guys, with the command mkfs-t ext4/dev/xvdf. I'm formatting this volume. Now I need to mount it. But currently my var www html is having some content, right? That should not be the case. Let me delete the content, because it's not a best practice to mount on a directory where the data is already exist, right? So I just back to my home directory, just because I don't want to be in the directory when I'm mounting, right? Mount/dev/xvdf. I'm mounting it under var www html. Let me clear the screen. df-h. Good. I'll go to where www.html. Now I'll create a file, index.html. Right? I'm just putting some line. Are we good with this? Now, any data that you are keeping in the var www.html location, right? That is in a different additional EBS volume. So far, so good. That's the best practice that I just followed. One thing that you notice here, right? Though we don't do or we don't deal with this last plus found directory, you see that this is a directory. But usually in the file systems directory, you will see this folder, right? So this is default created. The purpose is if at all any ARPANed files are found in this file system, those ARPANed files will be moved into the last plus found directory. That is the meaning of this directory. We will never ever use this directory at all. Right? For some reason, let's say something is corrupted and your files are ARPANed. What does it mean by ARPANed? Your file is not linking to your parent directories. In that situation, that file is called as a rpond file. Those rpond files will be moved into this directory. That is the purpose of this directory, and that gets created by default in every file system. But we can't replicate that behavior, and even I did not see a situation where there are some rpond files that are moved into the last plus found. Just because we see this, I'm just giving some explanation why it is. That's it. Okay, so far so good. Now the problem that I have, right, all the website related data that I'm trying to show to my users is in the var www.html, right? Now the question is, what is the case if this particular volume gets corrupted? Possible, guys? Is it possible that your file system gets corrupted? What is it mean by the file system here? The file system means that the structure, right? The structure that is got created in this volume, the structure which is compatible to store our data, that got corrupted for some reason. Our blocks are corrupted, or let's say the file itself got deleted by someone else. Something has happened, and my data is in a not usable format pattern. So what to do now? Right? So that is where we need to look at the backup solution now, right? So now I'm trying to deal with how do you take the backup of your data and how do you restore the backup if for any reason your data gets corrupted, because this is the important data, right? The data that whatever you see, right, this is the data that my website is serving to my end user whenever someone is accessing my website, right? If that data gets corrupted and the users cannot get my data, so it's our responsibility to secure our data and restore whenever is needed. Agree with me? Right? So that is where now I'm trying to deal with give me a second, guys. I'm just trying to deal with the backup solution, right? So this is 5, it will be 6. Give me a second, guys. I just have prepared this slide just before our session today. So one animation is missing over there. I used to, right, create the PPTs as and when I feel that this is the best way to explain. So more slides will come in. Okay. So the backup is the concept, right? That's okay. So here, let's say you have your file and that file gets corrupted for any reason. Okay. So what is the best practice, guys, to ensure that your file data is secure? What does it mean by the terminology called backup? So whichever the file that you feel that it is very important, right? You copy the file and you keep the file into a separate location as a duplicate copy, correct? That's how usually you guys do, right? Maybe you have a important a movie file in your laptop. You copy that movie file it into your pen drive and keep the pen drive in a separate store, correct? So for any reason your file gets deleted in your laptop, you connect the pen drive, you copy the file back. That is what is called as a backup and the restore the backup. So if a single file, if you take it as a backup and keep it somewhere else, that is called as a file backup. The file backup will help us to restore the file whenever the file gets corrupted. So you delete the corrupted file and you create a file backend. But in this case, let's say I have the EBS volume, right? The EBS volume has multiple files in it, right? So I'm not dealing with the file backup. The file backup will deal only with the file content. But here I'm worrying about the volume level. What is the case if my entire volume gets corrupted? The entire volume data got gone, right? So the entire volume now has to be taken into a backup that is called as a volume backup. From the AWS terminology perspective, this is called as a volume snapshot. Snapshot, backup, both are synonyms, right? So now I need to take the volume snapshot. The volume snapshot will be created and will be kept in somewhere in AWS level, right? If at all, if your volume gets corrupted, you delete the volume, then you create a volume using the volume snapshot. Got me? So now if you create a new volume, guys, so from the volume snapshot that was taken some time back, can you get the same data back in? Can you get the same data into the new volume that I just created? Definitely, right? Because the volume is actually created from the snapshot which was taken as a backup some time back. Are we good with this? AWS will help us to create a volume snapshot and restore the volume snapshot again as a volume to recover the data. We'll see how that will work now. Okay, so if this is a single volume, this is fine. I'll take the volume backup and I'll restore the volume again, right? But what is the case? Let's say you have a EC2 server. The EC2 server has multiple volumes, right? We already familiar that. One will be a root volume, additional volume, and I can create multiple additional volumes as well, right? So sometimes, if your volume gets corrupted, okay, I will restore the volume. What is the case if your entire EC2 instance itself is got corrupted? Getting me? Or in a way, your EC2 instance is now having two volumes, right? One is the root volume, one is the additional volume that I'm using to store my client data. Good. If your additional volume or your business volume in a way, right? The volume which I'm storing my business specific data, I meant to say, right? If your additional EBS volume got corrupted, then it is easy for me to recover the volume because EC2 server is up and running because the root volume is in a good state, correct? The question for you at this time, what is the case if your root EBS volume itself is corrupted? Getting me? If your root EBS volume is corrupted, root EBS volume is actually containing the operating system, right? And that is corrupted. Obviously, your EC2 server will go shut down. Your EC2 server will not be accessible. You cannot logging into the EC2 server. If you cannot logging into the EC2 server, first of all, how will you recover for the whole stuff? You got me? A simple example to understand this, let's say you have a laptop. The laptop is already having one internal inbuilt hard drive to store the data, which has the operating system. Now let's say you are connecting your external USB hard drive to your laptop. If your external USB hard drive got corrupted, I can easily take it out, get a new one, correct? Because your system is up and running, because your built-in hard drive is up and running, your operating system is up and running, the system is working fine. But the question is, what is the case if your built-in OS hard drive itself got corrupted? Then your entire system itself is down. It's very hard to recover it, right? So what is the case if your entire EC2 server is corrupted or broken or something has happened to that machine? So in that situation, to recover the whole server, we need to take the EC2 server level backup, which is now called as a image backup, which is also called as a EC2 AMI. So I need to take the AMI backup. AMI backup is nothing but the image backup. Nothing but the whole EC2 server will be considered as a image formatted backup, and that backup will help us to recover your whole EC2 server again, guys. I'll show you how that is being done in a while. Whenever you take the entire EC2 server backup as a AMI copy, it is actually going to take the backup of your root volume. It is going to take the backup of all the additionally attached volumes as well. You see in this scenario, though I referred it as a EC2 AMI, you see these two diagrams, it is actually included the snapshots of all the volumes that are attached to the EC2. That way, whenever your instance is got corrupted, you delete the current server, then you create a server again. But the server that I'm creating now, this is not a brand new server. No, this is the server that is recreated with the AMI that I have taken some time back. So the new EC2 server, whatever is came in, this server will get the same data, same configuration, same installation again. Correct? That's how it works. Whenever you are creating the AMI copy, right, it is possible for you to decide, do you need to include the snapshot of all the volumes or only the root volume? Help me, guys. So when you are trying to take the complete system backup, right, which one you feel important? When I say backup, obviously it is a data, right? The data in the sense, obviously the volumes, right? I have a root volume, I have additional volumes. Which is more important? Definitely the root volume when it considers the system level failures, right? The additional EBS volume, I'm not worried much. If my system gets recovered, if my root volume gets recovered, if my EC2 server is up and running, once I able to logging into the EC2 server, it's very easy for me to attach the additional EBS volume and use it for my use cases, right? So you can tell that, hey, at the time of creating the AMI backup, you please consider only the root volume. Don't take any other volumes, though those are attached. So at the time of restoration process, you see this scenario, I'm not deleting the additional volume, that is still there. You delete the EC2 server and the corresponding root volume which is corrupted, then you recreate a server from the AMI, right, and attach the old EBS volume back to the server and your server back to the running state again. So it's up to your requirement how you would like to take the AMI copy at the time of taking the backup. Let me show you these scenarios one by one. The file level backup is not supported by the AWS at this time. Any answer in the chat window why AWS is not supporting the file level backup? File level backup in the sense, A single file will be taken as a backup. Why AWS is not supporting the file level backups at this time? A question for you guys at this time. Do you think AWS has access to your operating system? Let's say this is the file. I wanted to take this file as a backup. No, right? The AWS is not having the control what's happening on the operating system side. Whatever is happening on the operating system, that is your responsibility to handle. AWS is not having the permission to enter into your OS level to see what's happening. AWS as an infrastructure service provider can only do anything which is outside of your EC2 server, and that is the infrastructure related part. The volume is in AWS control. So AWS has the permission to take the entire volume as a backup and keep it for you. But it cannot go inside the volume and take a particular file. No, that permission is not there. Are we good with that statement? Super. Now, in this scenario, let me take the backup of this XVDF drive. I'm thinking that maybe this is having some important data. I wanted to take the snapshot of this volume. So go to the server, right? In your EC2 server, just look into the storage section. Then identify the volume, which is the correct volume for you to take the snapshot. How do you identify, guys? In this scenario, my EC2 server has two volumes. The volume that I wanted to take the backup is XVDF from the operating system perspective. Now we need to do a cross comparison here. The name of the volume, it will be a SDF. So identify the volume and then click on the volume ID. This is the volume that I wanted to take as a backup. Take the volume, action, and now you see the option called create a snapshot. Give the description. This is the web server snapshot that is taken on 12/26/2023. I'm just following some best practice. By looking into the name itself or the description itself, we can understand that this snapshot is taken on a specific time, the date, right? Just go ahead and create a snapshot. Once the snapshot is initiated, you can look at the snapshots from the snapshot tab here, and you see that the snapshot is getting created. It takes some time to take your entire volume information and take it as a backup. I'm just refreshing. So based on the size of the volume, right? Based on the size of the volume, the amount of time that it takes to create will be vary. Here, this is the 4 GB volume. The snapshot may take maybe 1 or 2 minutes. You can see the progress as well. If you go to the real time, mostly your EBS volume size will be 200 GB, 300 GB, 500 GB, 1 TB as well sometimes. So in that situation, the snapshot will take at least a hour, 2 hours, 3 hours as well, guys. Right? That's okay. For now, we just need to, yeah, this is completed. So now the backup is ready, right? If something happened to this volume now, it is possible to recovery the snapshot from the snapshot. Definitely when it is taking the backup, right, whatever the data that you have, let's say I have some data in my volume, right? So this data, yeah, whatever the data is there in the volume, this data has to be duplicated into a separate location, right? So AWS will use the internal storage to store these snapshots at their level, but the AWS is going to charge from you because they are keeping the redundant copy in their location. That means, yes, all the snapshots are actually billable. They are billing separately for the snapshot storage. As part of the free tier, you don't need to worry about this billing. So it is part of the free tier, right? So, but yeah, when it comes to the real time, yes, all the snapshots are actually billable guys. Now, once the snapshot is completed, let's say your things are gone bad. Let's say your files are deleted for any reason. As of now, I'm deleting manually just to show you how to recovery, but assume that your files are deleted for accidentally. Something has happened. Now my index.html is not found. How to recovery this now, right? So to do this recovery process, first you don't use this volume. Then you unmount this volume because I don't want this volume, right? Because this volume has some corrupted data, right? You unmount the volume. Unmount in the sense, I don't want to use this volume. Go back to your server, right? Go back to your server. Go back to storage. Select the volume which you don't want it, which has the corrupted data. Select the volume, attach, actions, detach the volume, detach. Detach in the sense the volume will be removed from your server. Let me refresh. Now you see that the volume state is available. If you go back to OS level and look for the status, lsblk, you can't see that volume because the volume is removed from the server. Now from the AWS, I don't want this volume, go ahead and delete it. That is gone. Now what you do is go back to the snapshot section, select the snapshot, go to action, and then create a volume. You see here, create a volume from the snapshot. Then it will open the same create volume tab, and here you see that the snapshot is already considered as a source from where it has to create a volume. Now as usual, select the tab, the size and other information. I need it in 1D zone, right? Just go ahead and create a volume. Now since I have created a volume from the specific snapshot that I have selected, the volume will be recreated with the same data, what was the data there or was there in the snapshot. Now if you go to the volume tab here, you will be able to see the volume again. This is the new volume that I just have got created just now. Now you take this volume, attach the volume to your EC2 server. You can name it whatever you need it. Let's say just to avoid the confusion, I'll make it as SDD. I'm just giving the different name. You can give same name as well. Once it is attached, just go back to the server and look for the number of volumes and you see that you have got a new volume attached. Now use this volume to see your data. Now tell me guys, I just have added a new volume. Is this the raw volume or this volume has a file system already in it? File-yes is the command to validate that. You see that this is already having a file system in it because this is actually created from the snapshot. So you should not do a mkfs command on this volume. If you do, it will go and format it again. So rather doing mkfs again, don't format the volume now. You directly go and start mounting this volume called xvdd into where www html location. You go to the location and now you can see that your files are available. That's how we need to take the snapshot of your volume and restore it back to whenever something is really happened to recover your volume and the corresponding data. Are we good with this? Let me clear the screen. Right. So a simple question for you at this time to understand. Currently, I have installed the HTTPD application on this EC2 server, right? Tell me, guys, where did where did this HTTPD application is installed? I have two volumes at this time, right? XVDA, XVDD. My application is installed in which volume out of these two? Just to understand where you guys are at this time. Always it is a root volume, right? The XVDD, which is only my website related data. But if you are creating any user, group, OS level configuration, OS level installations, anything will definitely be using in the XVDA only, correct? That's the root volume. Good. Now, let's say, what is the case if my root volume gets corrupted? So root volume is corrupted and the EC2 server itself is corrupted. Both are same, right? Right? Because if the root volume is corrupted, your EC2 server is down. So pretty much same, right? So if your EC2 itself is corrupted, how do you recover it? So should I start taking the root volume as a snapshot? No. If you take the root volume as a snapshot, the way how you did it for your additional EBS volume, you will be getting the snapshot, but you can't restore the snapshot as a volume because by the time your server itself is not available. So the best practice is we need to take the image backup at this time. The image backup is a special backup which will be in a format to recover the server from the backup. All what you need to do is select the server, which server you would like to take a image backup, which is the AMI backup action, image and templates, create a image name. Let's say this is my web server, the timestamp when the backup is initiated. Image description is optional. I don't want to give anything at this time. Now you see that by default, it is considering both volumes to be part of this AMI backup. One is the root volume, which is mandatory, and one is the additional volume that is being used for your business purpose. Tell me, guys, do I need to include both of these volumes in my AMI copy at this time? If you want, yes, you can, but ideally not required, right? So I will delete my additional EBS volume. I will keep only my root EBS volume here. That is good enough. At the time of taking the root EBS volume, at the time of taking the AMI backup, so your EC2 server will be rebooted, guys, automatically. The only reason is when it is taking the backup of your root EBS volume, right, it should ensure that no one is accessing your EC2 server. So your server will be freeze for some time and it will go for reboot, then the backup will be taken. If you don't want the server to be rebooted during the AMI creation time, you just need to enable this no reboot option. Then the server will not reboot and it will go ahead and create a snapshot for you. AMI copy for you. You see now creating the AMI. In the left side navigation, if you go to the AMI tab here, you should be able to see the AMI that is being created. This is the AMI ID, and you see that the AMI is pending state. Let me refresh. It takes some time. If you go to this snapshots tab here and you see this now, there is one more snapshot automatically got created. This snapshot is being created as part of your create AMI process. That's what I was saying, right? The root volume snapshot will be automatically created as part of the image creation process. That's a backend activity, right? So if you come back to the AMIs again, just wait for the AMI to be ready. It may take some time. Once this AMI is available, then I can recover my server if my server gets corrupted for any reason.
Sir, I have one doubt.
Yes, please.
See, for example, in application owner, you want to try to just update his environment. So he asked to take a snapshot for um, so if once he done updation and all, if something happen means he need to revert back the system back. So at that scenario, should we take backup for the entire server as image backup, or only application related file system we should take that? See here, and slash var and WWL and HTML is mounted on one partition, and the root is mounted on a different partition. But an application is available slash root now. So considering this, whenever client is asked to take a backup to before updation, should we take for entire system or only particular application? Just
Thank you for the question. And whoever is not able to understand the question, that is still be fine. But answering to this, right? A question back to the application team that, hey, application team, tell me, are you going to do some changes at your application specific volume, or are you going to do something on the root volume as well? I'm just putting a blind question to them, right? If they say that, hey, there will be something changes in root volume as well, okay, I'll take the root volume backup as well, which is like AMI copy. If they say that no, I'm just doing some changes to my application specific volume related data only, it is not touching anything to OS level specific volume, okay, I'll not worry about AMI copy, I'll take only your volume backup. You got me what I'm trying to? That
yeah, I got it.
means there is a question back to the application team based on their response, what these guys are trying to do, will take a backup accordingly. So it's their requirement in a way.
Yeah, one more thing. So before taking the snapshot, should we consider the pricing part also? See, take.
Yeah, sorry, I get you mute. Yes, obviously, right? So as I said, any snapshot is actually uh, consuming some space and the billing is applicable. I'll come to there how to address those things when it comes to the real time in a well.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So as of now, the good part is the AMI is available. You can see that, right? Let's say now my EC2 server got corrupted. Okay, so this is the server, right? Let's say my server is corrupted. It is not working for any reason. So I'm just terminating the server just to show you that how to recover the server. Okay, let's say for some reason the server is gone. Okay, you can't get the server back in, right? So now what I do, I will go and launch a new server because the existing server is terminated because that was not in working state, right? So now when you are creating the a new EC2 server, rather you are selecting the AMI from the quick start section, which is giving you a fresh server. You go to your My AMI tab and you see here owned by me, and here you should be able to see the AMI that was created some time back, which is the server backup, image backup. That's it. If you take this AMI is the customized AMI which has the all the installations configurations of your EC2 server, right? All those configurations will be uh, now part of this AMI. So all your Apache configuration, any other customizations, everything will back to place, guys. That's how your root will be recovered back into the same state, right? So take this my AMI section, like this is the AMI, and that's it. The rest of the information is as usual. Select your instance type, select your key pair, right? Uh, Select your security group. All these things can be your choice, how you want it to be. And you see now it's actually creating the 8 GB of volume, but this time this is not a fresh volume. This is actually the volume that gets created from the AMI copy. So it will give you the same information. That's it. Now I'm recovering my server back to. So my server is ready, right? So let me go to this server. Now you see that the server is in 1D zone. So let me logging into the server. It's a simple concept, guys, but I'm going a pin by pin, like pin to pin. So it is taking some time. I hope you are getting detailed information. Now, if I look into this systemctl status HTTPD, you see that the HTTPD service is already there. Usually the HTTP will not be there, right? If you take the server from quick start section or the default Amazon provided AMI, how come the service is there? Just because this is configured already. If you would have been done this enable command before the AMI, even the services would have been started automatically. Okay, so I did not executed this enable command before, so the services were not started automatically. But yeah, ideally you can enable this command as well, so the services also will be get start automatically. Now once the system is recovered, now you can easily go and attach your additional volume, correct? Because currently I have only one volume again, lsblk, right? So now I can go to volume section, take your 4 GB volume, which is your data volume. Now I can attach this volume to your server. Now that's how you attach this volume, because this volume is not part of your AMI copy, right? The AMI has considered only the root volume. So you have got your volume here. Now mount/dev/xvdf on var www.html. You go to var www.html, look for your data. That's it. Your system is fully recovered. A question for you at this time. Let's say for any reason, if your EC2 server is created in a different availability zone, let's say your new EC2 server, when I recovered my server, right? Let's say my EC2 server is created in 1B availability zone as an example. This time this is good. Luckily, I got the server in 1D and my additional EBS volume already there in 1D only, correct? I was able to attach. But what is the case if your new EC2 server is created in 1B availability zone. Now, can you attach this volume, guys, to the server? No, right? No, because the volume and the server should be in the same zone. If that is the case, how will you do the things? If that is the situation, right? So the only option is you take this snapshot again. Okay, because I can't attach this volume to the server because the server is in different zone. So all what you need to do is go and take the snapshot, fill up this form and click on create a snapshot. Okay, so once the snapshot is created, I did not created it now because the snapshot is already there. Once you create a snapshot, from the snapshot again you create a new volume. At the time of creating a volume, now you decide your volume to be in which zone. Are we good with this? Now your volume will be get created in 1B zone or whichever the zone that you like it, and use that volume to your server. Problem is solved. It is containing the same data, right? Because the volume was in 1D. I took the snapshot, I create a volume, I created it into a different zone wherever I wanted to. So at the end of the day, it has the same data, but in a different zone. Hope we are good with that. So just to conclude the things here, right? What I'm trying to do here. So AWS has provided one AMI. Let's say AWS provided a Amazon Linux 2023 AMI, correct? And I have taken this AMI, then I have created a EC2 instance. This EC2 instance is actually came with the defaults, whatever AWS has given for us. On this E2 server, on this EC2 server, I made some customization, correct? What kind of the customizations that I have made? On this EC2 server, I have installed the Apache web server, or let's say I have installed some other application, or I have created some users, or it could be anything. What I'm trying to do here is I'm taking one simple EC2 server from the default AMI that the AWS has provided. Then on top of that EC2 server, I made some customization. Then I have taken my own AMI out of it, correct? So this AMI is my own AMI or the customized AMI, correct? Now onwards, if you use this customized AMI to create a new EC2 server, all those EC2 servers will be get created with the default Apache web server, the default users or default any other customizations that you have did in this EC2 server, correct? So if I have the requirement that, hey, in my organization, any EC2 server that you create, ensure that the Apache web server is there, ensure that these users should be there, ensure that this something XYZ configuration is there. If that is the requirement, rather you create a EC2 server from AWS provided default AMI and then you install all of these, right? It's better to create one time the EC2 server from AWS provided AMI, then you do your own customization, you create a AMI. Now onwards, you use this AMI to create any additional EBS, sorry, any additional EC2 server that you are trying to do in your organization. Is it the right solution, guys? That means in this scenario, the AMI I have not created as part of the backup and restore solution, correct? In this scenario, what is the reason that I have created AMI? In this scenario, my requirement is I wanted to create a EC2 instances in my organization with some default mandatory settings that my organization is looking for. For that reason, I'm creating my AMI. This is not just because if my server gets corrupted, I need to recover my server. That is not the purpose of my AMI now, correct? Following, right? So if you have created a AMI to keep your customization templates within it to create any other EC2 instances as per your requirement, that AMI is now called as a golden AMI. Being said that, now can I use this terminology in real time? Whenever you are creating a EC2 instance, always you will be using the golden AMI from this list to launch the servers. Are we good with this statement? In real time, always when we are creating EC2 instances, we will be using the golden AMIs only from this selection. Now you should know, you should understand what is it mean by the golden AMI terminology. Right? The golden AMI is a customized AMI that you prepared by keeping all the organization specific standards so that that AMI will bring you everything whatever you needed so that you don't need to install them again and again each time when you are creating a server. That's how every organization will be preparing their own golden AMI, keep it ready and use that AMI every time when you are creating the server, guys. We will not use this quick start guide or will not use the AWS provided AMIs every time when you create a EC2 server in the real time. Perfect. Cancel. Now, as I said that the EC2 service is the region specific service in the sense anything that you are doing in the EC2, it could be creating an instance, could be a elastic IP, could be a snapshot, could be a volume, could be a key pair, could be a security group, right? Anything that you do in the EC2 service or region specific in the sense those are not available in another region. If you go to another region, you can't see those EC2 instances or the EC2 resources because that is a region specific service. You see here, you can't see the server again. Even the AMI that you have created some time back, the golden AMI that you created some time back, that golden AMI also region specific. That golden AMI will not be available in the another regions by default. Sometimes in the real-time organization, right? So they will be creating one golden AMI by keeping all the standard customizations and they wanted to have the EC2 servers created in different regions. If that is the case, so the best practice is you create a golden AMI in one region, select the golden AMI, go to actions, right? And you see here copy AMI, right? Just click on copy AMI. Then you said that, hey, this AMI I wanted to copy to the destination region. You select the destination region, let's say Northern California, right? And just click on copy AMI. Now the AMI is got copied it into the target region. Now that AMI will be available here as well. Now use this AMI to create a server in this region also if you wanted to. You see this AMI, it's available. Of course, it is still copying, it takes some time. Are we good with this? Being said that, now if I ask you the question, hey, currently I have one EC2 server that is running in US East 1 region. how will you migrate that server to run in a different region? Let's say I don't want the server to be in this region. For some reason it is created like that. I wanted it to be in a different region. Take the AMI, copy the AMI, then create a server in the target server. That's it, right? Because the AMI will bring everything, whatever is there in the server, and you create a server in the target region. That is the process of you migrating a server from one region to another region if you wanted to. Good. So I don't want this AMI to be in my different region, which is again a billing factor. So for now, I wanted to delete. So delete in the sense deregister AMI. Now let me come back to my US East one. It is possible to share this AMI to different AWS accounts as well. Let's say you guys also having your own AWS account, right? The golden AMI that I created in my AWS account, I wanted to share this to your AWS accounts so that you can use my golden AMI, start creating EC2 servers. So I can go to edit AMI permissions, and here I can see the private option. Here you can see add account ID. So this is where I can add the other account ID here and click on share. That way, even in that AWS account, this golden AMI will be visible and can use that there also to create a server's case. So in real time, the golden AMI created in one account, if they have multiple AWS accounts, they will be just sharing it into each AWS account and use it there. That should work. So I just have talked about concept and the possible different scenarios around it. What kind of the configuration, the problems, things will be there in real time as well. Now coming back to here, right? If you look into the Elastic Block Store section, we covered volume snapshots. If you see the lifecycle manager, we don't use this lifecycle manager in real time, but I just wanted to talk about. The lifecycle manager is all about automating the creation and maintaining the snapshots and AMIs for you. Let's say if I tell to AWS that, hey AWS, can you take the snapshot and AMI of my volume and server once in a week? And please delete the very old snapshots because it's causing some more billing for me. We can tell all these things. AWS will do it automatically for you. You don't need to go and take it manually. If you tell some schedule, take it on so and so day, take it every week, take it every month, whatever you say, it just follow your timeline and it will perform this automated uh, snapshot creation for you guys. We don't use this much very often, but yeah, I'm just calling this out. So hence the reason I'm not showing exactly how to do this. It's just matter of filling this form. In this form, you just need to tell, right, which volume or which server you want to take the backup. It will just take it as per the schedule that you give. For now, I'm not showing this, not that much needed. Good. So I think that's the story, guys. And looking into the chart window, right? If the server is already running here, then how to migrate this into a different region? Remember, In general, from one region to another region, there will be no operations by default, right? If you wanted to do something like that, like how I did it for AMI, right? You need to copy to there as well, something like this. Okay, it will be case to case basis again based on the resource type. So it means that there will be no options here just to click and migrate it to a different region. No, and you don't get that options in the launch instance tab, because this launch instance is basically right to launch a server, and it will allow you to choose the options from the drop down which are very specific to this particular region. It will not show you the options of other regions, right? So you will not get that. So the only way, copy the AMI to different region wherever you want it to be, and then just use it over there.
Sir, in the drop down of the launch instance, like beside we have some arrow like thing. Yeah, here.
So if you look into this, right, sorry, I was on mute. Let's say my server is in Azure cloud, my server is in on-premises, my server is somewhere else. Now onwards, I want to use the server in AWS. You got me? In that scenario, this will help you to migrate it so easily. It's not about migration from one region to another region just like that. This is altogether a different concept to migrate it along with the application from different sources. Okay. Well, team, I think that's the story for today. And if any questions do, let me know. Hope we have understood fully by today with your Apache web server and how the web applications are working, right? With some real-time technical terminologies, right? And the volumes as well. Yes, please. Yeah, I don't.
Hello, Pierre.
Yes, go ahead, please.
This is
So there will be a issue with the network. I'm not able to hear you. Right? Probably you can type your question in the chat window if you are not able to speak due to any technical reasons. So that's the story for today, guys, and we'll talk more in tomorrow, and probably tomorrow will be IAM sessions. We'll see them. For now, this is completed. This is one pending.